The latest terrifying tale from horror master James Wan is now streaming on HBO MAX and in theaters, and whatever you are expecting from it, it's probably not what you're gonna get. This is my review of Malignant. We follow Madison, a woman paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murders. Her torment only worsens as she discovers that these waking dreams are in fact terrifying realities. And before I get properly started with my review, there'll be no spoilers for Malignant. I want you to go into this film and have the biggest chance at enjoying it as possible and knowing as little as possible. And I want you to know that I'm very glad to have you here. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Why don't you consider clicking on that subscribe button? If you're new to the channel, you'll do wonders to get my content out there, and you'll always be aware of whenever there's more great content. I'm a big fan of James Wan. I think he's a master craftsman when it comes to storytelling and direction specifically, and honestly you can totally tell that horror is where he feels most comfortable. It's where he started, it's where he has honed his craft throughout the years, and he proves it again once more with Malignant. The way he weaponizes ambience and the set pieces throughout this film to make the most out of it, give you the biggest shivers, the biggest scares. And he's a director that utilizes jump scares not as a gimmick, but as a tool of his storytelling. He always gives you a bit more insight. Whenever you see a jump scare in his movies, it gives you new information that you didn't know before you saw that setup to that jump scare. I also love how this film is shot. It is truly beautiful. There are lots of big, gorgeous wides that are so creative. There's a moment where you just see the camera up here and it's shooting someone walking around the house without ever cutting. You just see the character walking through the divisions of the house, from the hall to the bedroom to the bathroom to the kitchen. It's fucking awesome. This film is also very visually gnarly and vicious and violent. After Aquaman made $1 billion, they just let James Wan do whatever he wanted to do and spend that money on those practical effects for the blood and the gore, and it is incredible. Those moments where you have the kills, mwah, love it. But in contrast to all of that, we have the writing and therefore mostly everything else in this film. This movie was not written by James Wan. It was written by Aquila Cooper. I hope that's how you pronounce her name. James Wan, his wife, and Aquila came up with the story, and Aquila alone wrote the script. It reminds me a lot of Alien Resurrection. Alien Resurrection was a film that was written by Joss Whedon to be a bit campy, to be a bit silly, to be a bit on the nose about the Alien franchise. But then the director directed a very serious movie. This is what we get with Malignant. James Wan is directing the shit out of a very heavy, terrifying horror film. But none of those elements, none of the scares, none of the terrifying elements come across because of the writing. The writing is really bad. I'm sorry. The dialogue is absolutely atrocious. The characters are paper thin. They are basic. They are not well rounded at all, and the film is so blatant and so obvious, and it comes across as tone deaf because the writing and the direction are constantly at a clash. Earlier in the film, and then it happens throughout most of the film, whenever there's a big reveal, a big needle drop, a character says to someone else, "Hey, I'm adopted." This is a big reveal, it's a big moment, but number one, not only do you not get a big reaction out of anyone, sometimes when you see a dead body, people just look at it like it's nothing. You have no reactions to the big moments from the actor's face because those performers just couldn't save themselves. The writing is just that bad. They cannot do anything with a script like this. But those big reveals always have this beat drop of a techno music. You're not sure how to feel about it because people just get paralyzed, or you see something terrifying, but this big techno music is playing on the background and you just feel like dancing, but clearly the screen is not showing you something that you should be dancing to. It's like this.
Sydney, I'm adopted. What the fuck?
And the film just gets sillier and sillier as it goes. The more reveals you have throughout this film about what is going on, the least interesting it gets, the sillier it gets, the stupider it gets. At points it feels like the film is making fun of itself. There's even a moment where I had already checked out at that point, that the film was way too silly, it didn't make any sense, it had all these holes around it, and a certain character is put in a cell. And I kept thinking, oh my god, I cannot believe they're going to kill the cell full of stereotypes. I didn't care. Half of the time I was laughing at what was happening on screen, the other half of the time I was groaning at what was happening on screen. The way the trailers have been selling this movie have been pretty solid, but this film starts with a scene that was not addressed in the trailers at all, rightfully so, because it makes everything in the film so damn obvious. There's a really cool way with which the killer moves that looks like they can bend every way they want to, and that is really fucking creepy, but everything else besides that movement just leans on to the silliness that it doesn't look good on screen. It makes it laughable. Malignant is frustrating to watch. It's terribly inconsistent. It's at war with itself. As much as I wanted to root for it with what James Wan was doing, everything else about the story, to the characters, to the mythos, just doesn't work, and it's slapping itself in the face, and you, the audience. This is one of those films that's certainly not one of the worst of the year, because James Wan is so great at what it does. He kind of saves this film from being an utter train wreck. There's some fun to be had here. There's some fun to be had whether ironically or unironically. I understand if you like this film. To me, it's just very funny to see because it didn't work at all. I'm giving Malignant a C-. And so those are my thoughts on Malignant, but I want to know what you thought about it. Did you, like me, think it was pretty funny? Were you actually terrified of it? Did you think it was even worse? Drop it all down there in the comments below. Start the conversation. It's always the most important part. Thank you so much for watching. You are the best. Stay tuned for many more reviews to come very soon. And by the way, if you're still watching but still haven't clicked that subscribe button, consider clicking it, because if you're still watching, you enjoy it on some level. Thank you so much once more. You are the best. I'll be back very soon. And so until the next one, love each other and love the movies.